The message came on a cold Tuesday morning. Captain Park was drinking her coffee on the bridge of the Resolve when the communication screen lit up with symbols she had never seen before. The symbols belonged to the Galactic Council, the oldest and most powerful government in the known universe. In 120 years of contact with alien species, humanity had never received a direct message from them. Until now. Set down her coffee and read the message 3 times. Her hands were steady, but her heart was not. The council had summoned humanity to appear before them. No reason was given. No explanation was offered. Just a time, a place, and a warning that failure to appear would be considered an act of war. Lieutenant walked onto the bridge and saw the look on his captain's face. He was a tall man with sharp eyes and the kind of calm that only came from years of military training. He had served with for 5 years, and he knew when something was wrong. "What is it?" he asked. Turned the screen toward him, read the message, and his jaw tightened. He said nothing for a long moment. Then he looked at and asked the question they were both thinking. "Has this ever happened before, to any species?" Doctor answered from the doorway. She was the ship's, a small woman with glasses and a mind that held more knowledge about alien cultures than most computers. She had been listening from the corridor. "Yes," she said quietly. "It has happened before, 12 times in the last 4,000 years." "And what happened to those species?" asked. Walked to her console and pulled up historical records. The data filled the screen. Names of species, dates of summons, and outcomes. The outcomes were all the same. Every species summoned by the council had either submitted to their demands or been destroyed. There was no middle ground. There was no negotiation. There was only obedience or death. Stared at the screen for a long time. She thought about Earth. She thought about the 8 billion people living there, going about their lives, unaware that their fate was being decided by beings they had never met. She thought about the colonies on Mars and Europa and the distant worlds humanity had settled in the last century. All of it could be gone in an instant if the council decided humanity was not worth keeping. "We have to go," said finally. Looked at her sharply. "Captain, this could be a trap. They could destroy us the moment we arrive." "Maybe," agreed. "But if we don't go, they will come to us. And they will not come alone. At least this way we can see what we are dealing with. We can understand what they want." Nodded slowly. "The captain is right. Knowledge is our only weapon right now. We need to know who these beings are and what they expect from us." The journey to the council station took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of silence and preparation. 3 weeks of reading every record they could find about the council and its members. The council was made up of 47 species, all of them ancient, all of them powerful. The youngest member species had been traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves. The oldest had existed for so long that no one remembered their beginning. The hegemony had delivered the message to Earth. They were a warrior species, tall and covered in scales, with eyes like burning coal. They had conquered 12 other species and turned them into servants. They believed in strength above all else, and they saw weakness as a disease that needed to be cut out. Did not sleep well during those 3 weeks. She kept dreaming of Earth in flames. She kept seeing her mother's face, her sister's children, the streets of Seoul where she had grown up. She had joined the fleet to protect those things. Now she wondered if protection was even possible. On the final day of the journey, the Resolve dropped out of faster-than-light travel, and the council station appeared on their screens. Had seen pictures of it in the historical files, but nothing had prepared her for the reality. The station was the size of a small moon. It orbited a dying star, a red giant that filled half the sky with its bloody light. The station itself was covered in lights and structures that looked like cities built on top of cities. Ships of every shape and size moved around it like insects around a hive. "Gods," whispered, "how old is that thing?" "Older than human civilization," answered. "It was built before we discovered fire." Took a deep breath. Her hands were steady now. Fear had given way to something else, something harder, something colder. She did not know what waited for them inside that station. She did not know if they would ever leave it alive, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She would not bow, she would not beg. Whatever the Council wanted from humanity, they would have to earn it, or take it by force. "Open a channel," ordered. "Tell them we have arrived." The screen flickered. A face appeared. It was not human. It was not anything had ever seen. It was made of crystal, with light moving inside it like trapped lightning. When it spoke, its voice was like breaking glass. "Welcome, humans," the crystal being said. "The Council has been waiting for you." The resolve moved forward into the shadow of the station, and the darkness swallowed them whole. The grand chamber was larger than any building had ever seen. It was carved from black stone that seemed to eat light. Seats rose in circles around a central platform, climbing so high that the beings in the top rows looked like dots against the ceiling. Thousands of aliens filled those seats. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some had no bodies at all, just floating clouds of gas or light. All of them were watching the humans. Walked at the front of her small group. Was on her right, his hand resting near his weapon. Was on her left, her eyes moving constantly as she studied every species in the chamber. Behind them walked Ambassador, who had arrived from the colony world of New Sol just hours before. Was an older woman with gray hair and a face that showed nothing. She had spent 40 years negotiating with alien governments. She had never faced anything like this. The platform in the center of the chamber was empty except for a single pedestal. Above the pedestal floated the crystal being had seen on the screen. Up close, it was even more terrifying. It stood 3 meters tall, and its body constantly shifted and changed, like ice forming and melting at the same time. Light moved inside it, pulsing like a heartbeat. "I am High Arbiter," the being announced. Its voice filled the entire chamber without effort. "I have led this council for 4,000 years. I have seen species rise and fall. I have watched empires grow and crumble, and I have brought order to this galaxy." The word order echoed through the chamber. Notice that when said it, several of the aliens in the lower seats flinched. They were smaller than the others, dressed in simple clothes with collars around their necks. Servants, slaves. She understood now. The Council's order was built on the backs of the weak. "Humanity," continued, "you have been part of our Federation for 120 years. During this time you have been watched, studied, evaluated. Your probationary period is now complete." Stepped forward. Her voice was calm and clear. "We thank the Council for their patience. We hope our conduct has been satisfactory." Slight flickered. It might have been amusement, it might have been contempt. "Your conduct has been interesting. You expand quickly. You breed quickly. You fight among yourselves constantly, yet somehow you survive. You are chaotic, unpredictable, dangerous." "We prefer the word adaptable," replied. Silence fell over the chamber. No one spoke to the High Arbiter that way. No one. His form grew brighter. "Adaptable, yes. That is why you are here. The Council has decided that humanity must now fulfill its obligations under galactic law. Article 7, Section 14, the Law of Tribute." A holographic display appeared above the pedestal. Numbers and terms filled the air. Read them with growing horror. 30% of all human resources would go to the Council. 20% of all human worlds would be surrendered. All human military forces would be placed under Council command. Humans would serve where they were told, fight where they were told, die where they were told. "This is how order is maintained," explained. "The strong protect, the weak provide. This is the way of the galaxy. This is the way it has always been." His face remained calm, but could see her hands trembling slightly. "And if we refuse?" The chamber erupted in sound. Alien laughter, alien shouting, alien clicks and whistles. The idea of refusal was absurd. It was funny. It was insane. Raised one crystalline arm and silence fell instantly. "No species has ever refused. The accepted and now serve faithfully. The tried to negotiate and received worse terms. The fought, paused. The now live on a single world, their numbers reduced from billions to thousands. They will never recover. Images appeared in the air. A beautiful planet covered in forests, then the same planet burning. Cities reduced to ash. Bodies piled in the streets. Children crying over their dead parents. They had been a proud people once. Now they were ghosts. You have 72 hours to consult with your government, said. When you return, you will accept the terms. There is no other choice. Bowed her head slightly. We will deliver your message to Earth. As the humans turned to leave, a massive figure blocked their path. It was a warrior, 7 feet tall, covered in dark scales. Its eyes burned like fire. Little humans, the growled. I hope you choose to fight. It has been too long since we crushed a species. Your screams will be sweet music. Stepped forward, his hand on his weapon. He was half the size, but his eyes held no fear. Touch any of us, said quietly, and you will learn why humans have survived this long. They laughed and stepped aside, but noticed something. In the lower seats among the servants and slaves, she saw faces watching them, not with fear, not with pity, with something else, something that looked almost like hope. The humans walked out of the chamber. Behind them, the council members were already celebrating. In 72 hours, they would have another servant species, another source of tribute, another victory. They had no idea what was coming. The World Senate chamber in Seoul was filled with shouting. Representatives from every nation on Earth and every human colony were screaming at each other. Some demanded surrender. Some demanded war. Some demanded more time that they did not have. Prime Minister sat at the center of the chaos, her face still as stone. Was 60 years old. She had been a soldier before she became a politician. She had fought in 3 conflicts and carried scars on her body and her soul. She had seen what war could do to people. She had also seen what surrender could do. Sometimes surrender was worse. We cannot fight them, shouted a representative from the European Union. Their fleet is 200 times the size of ours. They have weapons we cannot even understand. Fighting them is suicide. Surrender is also suicide, replied a representative from the African coalition. Did you not see what they did to the? They do not want partners. They want slaves. Our children will grow up in chains. The shouting grew louder. Let it continue for a few more minutes. Then she stood up. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. The chamber fell silent. Admiral O, she said, give us your assessment. Admiral O was an old man with white hair and eyes that had seen too much. He had commanded the United Earth Fleet for 20 years. He knew every ship, every weapon, every soldier under his command. He also knew their limits. We have 400 warships, the admiral said. The Council has over 80,000. Our technology is roughly equal to theirs in some areas, but they have numbers we cannot match. In a direct fight, we would lose. That is certain. Silence filled the chamber. The representatives looked at each other with despair in their eyes. However, the admiral continued, direct fights are not the only kind of fight. Raised an eyebrow, explain. For the past 80 years we have been preparing, secretly, quietly. We knew this day might come. We have built weapons the Council does not know about. We have developed tactics they have never seen. We have trained soldiers who are willing to die for something greater than themselves. The admiral paused. We cannot win a war against the entire Council, but we can hurt them. We can hurt them badly enough that they might decide we are not worth the cost. A representative from South America spoke up. And if they decide we are worth the cost, what then? The admiral met her eyes. Then we die free. The chamber exploded in argument again. Raised her hand and silence returned. Professor Song, she said, you have studied human history your entire life. What does history tell us about moments like this? Professor Song was a small woman with kind eyes and a gentle voice. She taught history at Seoul National University. She had written 12 books about human survival. Now she stood before the leaders of humanity and spoke the most important words of her life. "History tells us that humans should not exist," she said. "We should have died in the ice ages. We should have been killed by plagues. We should have destroyed ourselves with nuclear weapons. Every time we faced extinction, someone told us to give up. Someone told us it was hopeless. Someone told us to accept our fate." She paused and looked around the chamber. "We are still here. We are still here because we refused to accept. We are still here because we fought, not because we were stronger. Not because we were smarter, but because we were stubborn, because we would rather die standing than live on our knees." The chamber was completely silent. Even the representatives who had been calling for surrender were listening. "The council has existed for 12,000 years," Professor Song continued. "In all that time, no species has ever refused them, not once. They do not know what refusal looks like. They do not know how to handle it. That is our advantage. That is our weapon." Nodded slowly, she turned to the chamber. "We will vote, but first I want to propose something, not surrender, not war, something in between." "What do you mean?" asked the European representative. Smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a soldier who had made peace with death. "We send them an answer. One word. No explanations, no negotiations, no fear. Just one word that tells them exactly who we are and what we have decided." "What word?" asked Admiral O. "Told them." The vote was held 1 hour later. 89% of the representatives voted yes. The others did not vote no. They simply did not vote at all. Perhaps they were afraid. Perhaps they were wise. It did not matter. Recorded the message herself. She sat in front of a camera, wearing her old military uniform. She looked into the lens and imagined she was looking into the eyes of the High Arbiter himself. She spoke one word. The message was sent across the stars, racing toward the council station at the speed of light. Behind it came something else, something the council was not expecting. Hope, spreading like fire through every enslaved species, every conquered world, every being who had ever dreamed of freedom. The humans had answered, and the galaxy would never be the same. 72 hours had passed. The grand chamber was full again, but this time there was excitement in the air. The council members were eager to watch another species kneel. They had seen it many times before. The fear, the tears, the final acceptance. It was entertainment for them. It was proof of their power. High Arbiter floated above the central pedestal, his crystal body glowing bright with anticipation. Around him sat the representatives of 47 species, the rulers of the galaxy. Below them sat the servants, the slaves, the broken peoples who had once been free. They watched with empty eyes, remembering when they had stood where the humans now stood. Ambassador walked to the platform alone. She had insisted on this, and then stood at the edge of the chamber, watching. His heart was pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. Ambassador said, "You have consulted with your government, you have seen the terms, you understand what refusal means. Now speak. Does humanity accept the law of tribute?" The chamber fell silent. Every eye turned to the small human woman standing alone in the center of the most powerful room in the galaxy. She looked so fragile, so weak, so easy to crush. Reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. She placed it on the pedestal and pressed a button. A holographic image appeared above her. It was Prime Minister, wearing her military uniform, her face calm and strong. The recording played. Looked into the camera. She did not smile, she did not frown, she simply spoke one word. "No." The hologram disappeared. Silence, complete total silence. No one in the chamber moved. No one breathed. The word hung in the air like a bomb that had not yet exploded. Then spoke. His voice was different now, confused, uncertain. "I do not understand. Is there a translation error? What is your counter-proposal?" Looked up at him. "There is no counter-proposal. There is no error." The word was complete. Our answer is no. The silence shattered. Council members began shouting in 100 different languages. Some were angry, some were shocked, some were laughing, unable to believe what they had heard. The representative roared with fury and slammed his fist against his chair. "You dare," they screamed. "You pathetic insects dare to refuse us. We will burn your worlds, we will slaughter your children, we will erase your species from existence." Did not move, she did not flinch. She simply stood there small and calm while giants raged around her. Raised his hand and the chamber fell silent again. His crystal form was pulsing rapidly now, light flowing through him like angry rivers. "You do not understand what you have done," said. "In 12,000 years no species has ever refused the council. You are alone. You are weak. You have no allies, no support, no hope of survival. Why would you choose death over service?" Smiled, it was a real smile, warm and genuine. "You ask why we refuse. Let me show you." She nodded toward Captain Park, stepped forward and activated her communicator. The signal went out across the station, across the fleet, across every communication channel in the system. It reached the servants in the lower seats. It reached the slave ships in orbit. It reached every conquered and broken species that had been listening in secret. Spoke clearly. "This message is for every being who has ever been forced to kneel, every species that was told they were too weak to fight, every world that was conquered and every people that were enslaved. You are not alone. We are humanity. We have chosen to stand. We ask nothing from you. We do not demand that you fight with us, but we want you to know that someone said no. Someone refused, and if we can refuse, then so can you." The chamber erupted again, but this time the sound was different. The council members were still shouting, but now there was fear in their voices. And in the lower seats among the servants and slaves, something was happening. They were standing up. Not attacking, not fighting, just standing, looking at the humans with tears in their eyes. The representative pushed through the crowd toward. "You have started a war you cannot win, human. We will enjoy destroying you." Stepped between them, his hand on his weapon. "You will try." His voice boomed across the chamber. "Enough. The humans have made their choice. They have chosen extinction, so be it. The council will mobilize. Within 1 month the human worlds will burn." Bowed slightly, "We will be waiting." The humans turned and walked toward the exit. No one stopped them. The council members were too shocked, too angry, too afraid of what this meant. For the first time in 12,000 years, their power had been questioned. Their authority had been challenged. Their order had been broken. As reached the door, she looked back. The servants were still standing. Some of them were whispering to each other. Some were crying. But their eyes were different now. The emptiness was gone. Something else had taken its place. Hope walked out of the chamber and did not look back again. Behind her, the first cracks were forming in an empire that had stood for thousands of years. The war had not yet begun, but the revolution had already started. 6 months had passed since the word that shook the galaxy. The invasion fleet had finally arrived at the edge of human space. 10,000 warships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. They blocked out the stars like a wall of death. Admiral O stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Unconquered, and watched them come. "Admiral," his communications officer said, "the commander is demanding our surrender. He says if we lay down our weapons now, he will only destroy half our colonies instead of all of them." Admiral O almost smiled. "Tell him we have a counteroffer. Turn around and go home, and we will only destroy half his fleet instead of all of it." The battle began 20 minutes later. The first wave of ships came fast, expecting the humans to break and run. They had conquered 12 species. They had never lost a battle. They did not know how to imagine defeat. This was their weakness. Human ships were smaller, but they moved in ways they had never seen. They did not fly in formation. They did not follow predictable patterns. They danced between the enemy vessels like shadows, striking and vanishing, appearing where they were least expected. The commanders screamed orders, but their ships were too slow, too rigid, too used to fighting enemies who played by the rules. Captain Park led a strike team of 50 ships straight at the flagship. It was suicide, everyone knew. The flagship had shields that could stop a nuclear blast. It had weapons that could crack a planet in half. It was invincible. Captain said calmly, "The flagship is targeting us." "Good," replied. "That means they are not targeting anyone else. All ships prepare to fire on my command." The flagship opened fire. 3 human ships exploded instantly. 5 more were damaged, but the rest kept coming, closer and closer, until they were almost touching the flagship's shields. "Now," ordered. 50 ships fired at once, but they were not firing normal weapons. They were firing quantum disruption missiles, designed by a young engineer named Sora Han. She had spent 10 years developing them in secret. They were built for one purpose: to make Council shields useless. The missiles passed through the flagship's shields like they were not there. They struck the hull and exploded. The greatest warship in the fleet, the pride of their empire, broke apart in a ball of fire that lit up the entire system. The fleet froze. Their commanders could not believe what they were seeing. Their invincible flagship was gone, destroyed by insects, by prey, by humans. "All ships," Admiral O commanded. "Press the attack. Show them what humanity is made of." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, half the fleet was destroyed or disabled. The rest retreated, running from creatures they had called weak. Human losses were heavy. 112 ships destroyed, thousands dead. But they had won. For the first time in history, someone had defeated the Council's greatest warriors. And that was only the beginning. Across the galaxy, the revolution spread. The who had served the Council faithfully for 3,000 years sabotaged their tribute shipments. The disabled Council monitoring stations on 100 worlds. The survivors, the last few thousand of their species, emerged from hiding with ships they had built in secret. They were few, but they were fierce. The Council began to fracture. Some member species wanted to negotiate with humanity. Some wanted to continue the war. Some packed their belongings and fled to the far edges of the galaxy, hopping to escape the chaos. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Council was afraid. High Arbiter contacted Prime Minister directly. His crystal form flickered on the screen, unstable, weakened. Prime Minister said, "This war has cost both sides greatly. Perhaps we can discuss revised terms." Looked at him with cold eyes. "We do not want your terms. We do not want tribute. We do not want power over others. We want one thing only." "What do you want?" "A promise that no species will ever be forced to kneel again, that the law of tribute ends forever, that every being in this galaxy has the right to be free." Leaned forward. "Give us that promise and the war ends today. Refuse and we continue fighting. We will fight for a year, 10 years, 100 years, however long it takes. We are very patient when we need to be." Was silent for a long time. Light moved slowly through his crystal body, dimming and brightening, dimming and brightening. Finally, he spoke. "You have won, humans, not because you were stronger, because you made others believe they could be strong too. That is a power we never understood." He paused. "You will have your promise. The law of tribute is ended." 1 year later, a new galactic assembly met for the first time. It was not held on the old council station. That place was being converted into a museum and memorial, a reminder of what had been and what must never be again. The new assembly met on a station built by all species working together, equal partners in a shared future. Ambassador delivered humanity's first address to the assembly. She was older now, her hair, her face more lined, but her voice was still strong. "We answered the council with one word," she said, "because one word was enough. No, it is the most powerful word in any language. It is the word that breaks chains. It is the word that ends empires. It is the word that sets us free." She looked around the chamber at the representatives of 100 species, former slaves and former masters sitting side by side. Now let us speak many words together. Let us build something new, something better, something worthy of all we have sacrificed. Captain Park watched the speech from the bridge of the Resolve. Her ship was part of a joint fleet now, human and alien vessels flying together. Stood beside her, a little grayer than before but still sharp-eyed, was analyzing data from the new translation networks that connected all species. Through the viewport, could see the old council station in the distance, dark and silent. She thought about the servants she had seen there, standing up for the first time. She thought about the word that had changed everything. No. Such a small word, such a simple word, but it had moved the stars. Smiled and turned back to her crew. "Where to next, Captain?" asked. "Forward," replied. "Always forward." The Resolve jumped to and disappeared among the stars, carrying the hope of a free galaxy into the endless future.